In this episode of the Beamable Game Dev podcast, I sit down with Krysti Pride from Playcrafting, and we talk all about how Playcrafting supports game devs. Let's jump into the interview. Welcome to another episode of the Beamable Game Dev podcast. I'm very excited today. We have a very special guest, Krysti Pride. Krysti, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am doing so great.
Oh,
with my 2 coffees.
2 coffees. I love it. Double fist in the coffee. That is fantastic.
You gotta have a hot and a cold.
I'm right there with you. So, Krysti, you are from Playcrafting. We recently did a game jam. And so we're just going to kind of talk about that. We're going to talk about Playcrafting. But the first thing we need to talk about is, what have you been playing lately?
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring, yes.
I have been one of the many that is like fully consumed by Elden Ring. If you know me, I am a history nerd and I am a fantasy nerd, specifically a medieval nerd. So this game is just hitting all the right notes for me. I'm a big FromSoft fan too. So yeah, this game is absolutely doing it for me. And I think I've got how many hours now? Let me look at my Steam library right here.
Oh, here we go.
I have already, where am I? 80 hours.
That's good.
Which I think is fine, which is a normal amount of hours compared to the amount of hours other people are putting into the game. I don't have a lot of time to play games, so putting 80 hours into a game for me these days is like a feat of strength, literally. So yeah, so that's all I've been playing, and I just downloaded Tunic, so I really want to start playing that as like a palate cleanser when when Elden Ring gets a little too much for me.
I gotcha. I've been hearing good things about Tunic. It seems like a lot of people are enjoying it.
And the trailer looks amazing. I haven't played it yet, but it looks perfect.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about The Legend of Zelda before. It's definitely got some Zelda vibes.
It's got the Zelda energy that I love. Exactly. Yeah. So it speaks to me.
So any particular bosses that you really got hung up on in Elden Ring?
Yeah, I mean all of them, but it's so weird. It's so weird. So some of the bosses, I literally went into the fight not knowing that a boss battle was coming up, and you're just thrown into a fight, and you rarely it takes time to figure out the mechanics, and I can't even say the patterns for the bosses because it feels so random. You can't even really predict the patterns. So some of the boss fights, I beat the first try, which I feel like should not have happened. It was purely by accident or by luck. I did not know what I was doing. I was just button mashing my way. We just panic mash your buttons. That was me for sure. But then I would beat them, and I'm like, what the? But then I when I go into a boss battle that I know is coming up, I know a boss is going to be here, and I try to prepare, that's when I get my ass kicked. So I think the trick is to just not know what you're doing and kind of let intuition take the wheel. But yeah, no, some of them were really difficult, and I got hung up on really stupid ones. There's, when you go to Raya Lucaria, there's that wolf with the sword. Okay. That is right before Renala, Queen of the Moon or whatever. And that stupid wolf ruined so many hours of my life.
That was like 20 of the 80 hours, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or the dragon that you have to fight to get the Moonveil sword, that's just in a little dungeon. It's not even a main boss or anything, but you have to defeat this dragon to get the Moonveil katana. And that was that felt impossible to me.
Just brutal.
But the main bosses, yeah, I one-shot them.
Yeah, there you go.
But these stupid little mini bosses and side bosses give me a run for my money.
Hey, I love it. Sounds like you're having a great time with it, which is fantastic.
I am. I'm really enjoying it. It's frustrating, but the game overall is just so well made that you can't be mad. Or that mad at it.
Yeah, there's something about those difficult games where I remember playing Ninja Gaiden back on the original Xbox, and I was I'm going to bed I'm trading this game in tomorrow. I hate it, and then I would get up and beat a boss, and I'm like, oh, this feels good. I'm gonna keep going. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I love that you mentioned that because I have compared this game and some other FromSoft games to Ninja Gaiden because of that difficulty alone. And I feel like when I mention Ninja Gaiden, people are like, what? And like so many people I know have not played this game, so they don't have like, you know, a barometer. And I'm like, trust me, if you played this game like growing up, you would understand that like this difficulty like is very parallel. So I always like make that comparison with Ninja Gaiden because I felt the same way, but it felt so good when you got past a certain point. Yes. But back in the day, it was like it would take you days to like get past a certain point. Right?
And it was especially like you were saying with those mini bosses. I remember like I would play like 2 hours on a boss and then come back the next day and beat it the first try. And I'm like, how? I guess I was just fresh. I guess it was fresh. Yeah.
And that's how I feel with Elden Ring. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not talented at the game by any stretch. My build sucks. I totally like screwed my build from the start. So like my character makes no sense. I need to like respec. But yeah, you just get like lucky.
Right.
But it still feels good.
It totally does. It totally does. Well, let's change gears a little bit here. Let's talk about playcrafting. What is playcrafting?
What is Playcrafting? So Playcrafting essentially is a company that connects game developers with brands and opportunities. That is like kind of the business sell of Playcrafting. We are obviously so much more. We do a lot locally here in NYC. We started off as like a New York City game dev focused company, but we are now global, which is nice. And now we work with game devs globally. But yeah, so I'm the game dev relations manager. So I essentially talk and network and meet with devs all day, every day, and try to find the right devs for the right opportunity. So we'll have partners contact us. Like very recently, we worked with Dolby, and Dolby reached out to us and said, hey, you guys have a huge developer network. We are really interested in finding developers to make kind of like experiences and prototypes using Dolby Atmos, which is their spatial audio. So they really want to move into incorporating their audio into video games more. And Dolby's been in video games for a very long time, since the 90s. If you've ever booted up like Tomb Raider, you've seen the Dolby logo, right? So they've done like audio and stuff. They've been in the gaming space for a minute, but now they're like really trying to get into it, especially on the mobile side of things. So they reached out to us and they were like, we would love to find developers that know how to use Wise and Fmod, which are audio programs for game development. And I say, no problem. And then I shuffle through my Rolodex of devs. I reach out to people. I find the correct fits, and we kind of form teams, and we do these mini game jams with big brands and companies. And this allows game developers to experiment with new tech, create cool stuff for their portfolio, and get paid. We don't do anything for free. We make sure all of our devs are paid, and we focus on helping marginalized devs. So that's a lot of our efforts.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's like Beamable's motto is we fight for the game maker, right? And it sounds like we're basically just taking up arms with Playcrafting, and let's just do
absolutely
this.
Same. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, and it was great. Really it was great doing the game jam with you guys. And
not just a game jam, it was the global game jam.
The global game
which
jam.
Was so cool. Yeah. And that is like a huge global event. This is an event that devs like super look forward to. It's a big deal. So it was great to have Beamable join that. It was so dope. And we would love to do more stuff like that with you. Because what you guys are creating and like offering for devs is very dope.
It's the very, very exciting stuff. We just launched our new website, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Did you?
And the team that won, that implemented Beamable, and one is I'm working on getting the scheduling set up to have them come on and talk about the Global Game Jam.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's just so cool to see devs kind of play with new tech and incorporate it into their projects. And the fun thing about game jams is you have to create something in X amount of time, right? And it's like an impossible amount of time in regards to game development. Like you have 3 days, 5 days, 7 days to create a functioning experience using whatever technology. And these game devs always knock it out of the park. I'm like, you made this in 5 days?
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, some of the games were wild as we were judging them. It was crazy.
No.
So very, very cool to see. I actually, we did something, the one game jam I was a part of, we did something crazy, and we used motion capture. We did mocap. I spent an afternoon learning how to use the software, and then we put an actor in the suit and did mocap at the game jam. It was part of the Global Game Jam in Seattle, and a couple years ago. And so we had motion capture in our game. Like,
was it? That is so wild. I would love to see that. Was it like a proper mocap suit, or did you like make your own ad hoc kind of mocap suit?
So there's a number of companies that do. Essentially, you can have a mobile mocap studio, and it's literally just the you have like a sensor for the wrist, your arm, around your head, your legs, and around your waist, and they all just connect wirelessly to the computer, and you check each one of them. I want to say there was like 8 sensors total, and they have different versions of this, right? Like there's different, so you don't have to deal with all the cameras and all the little nodes and all that kind of stuff. This is just like essentially 8 sensors, and you can go to work. And
that is so cool.
Yeah.
And how did it turn out?
It was great. We made a little game where the character ran around this. The ship that they had was like an orb, and there were asteroids coming in, and the character would run and jump and hit the asteroids to keep them from getting their ship destroyed. And so I think we had the actor jump off a table and throw their fist in the air, and like, and then we would capture sound effects and stuff as well, and add like we bit off way more than we could chew, but it was fun.
My gosh, I love that. And that's like so fun when making games. It's almost more fun when you bite off more than you can chew. That's so fun. So when you were doing like sound effects, were you doing Foley work to capture your own sounds, or were you just using like pre-made sounds?
So the Key Arena in Seattle was getting remodeled. And so there was all this loud construction noise and stuff. So I was out there with a microphone, just like getting the sound of like excavators driving around, and like if they dropped a rock and it made like an exploding, like that would end up being something I would cut just a piece out of and put that in. And we even did some voiceover work, and it was we bit off way more than we could chew, but
so fun, right?
It was a blast. Yeah. It was a blast. And of course everybody there's like, no way you guys are doing motion capture, like, and what was great is one of the team members actually worked for Bungie in their motion in their mocap studio. And then I think recently and still does work for 343. So, so it was really cool for him. He was like, "Oh, I get to direct right now." He put me on the machine to do the actual capturing, and then he worked with the actor. And so it was really good time.
I love that. That's so fun. Game jams are so great for exactly these reasons, because even if your product is like whatever, like just the process of like working together and brainstorming and being creative and like putting something together, that whole process leading up to like the final product is like so fun. And we normally do these global game jams, as you know, in person. And so the energy is much different when you get a bunch of devs into just a big room and you're feeding them and watching them over the course of a couple days, like bring these ideas to life. That energy is like unexplainable. It's amazing. It's a little different. Well, it's a lot different virtually, unfortunately, but we make it work. And at least virtually, the one perk with virtual game jams now is it allows devs to work with people globally. Yeah. They're not tied down to working with teams locally. So I know for this Dolby Jam that we did, using their spatial audio, a lot of our teams were like, hey, since this is virtual, can I work with someone in Spain? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. If you have someone that you want to work with that's far away, let's go. Let's leverage this virtual lifestyle the best we can. Yeah,
that's amazing. So One question I have is, do you feel like Playcrafting is more for veterans or is it for newcomers in the dev space as well?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I would say we do focus more on greener developers. We are always trying to help greener devs kind of get stuff for their portfolio, get opportunities, network with other devs to kind of help give them momentum to their career. But with that said, we do work, we don't shy away from working with more veteran devs too. If veteran devs have the time and they want to work on a project with us, they are more than welcome to. Behemoth.
We can hear the cat. There's the cat right there. Welcome Behemoth to the podcast. So glad you could join us.
This is what you wanted? To just be seen by the people?
I didn't hit record until I could hear Behemoth in the background. I'm like, come on, where's he at?
When I record my podcast, he hears me talking to myself and he like runs over immediately.
He's the permanent guest.
Yeah, he's the best. All right,
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes. So veteran devs, yeah, we do sometimes work with devs from like bigger studios. And that's largely because they just reach out to us and want to do stuff. And we say, yeah, absolutely. And, we can then use that opportunity to kind of like use these more senior devs to help newer devs. So.
I understand. Mm-hmm. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into Playcrafting. And let's say I'm a game dev. I have maybe a small team. If I reached out to you, it was like, where would you point? Like, pretend I don't know anything about this, basically, and I'm like, hey, I just heard of Playcrafting. I'm making this game. What would the next step be?
Oh, okay. So if you're like, hey. Like you like DM'd the Playcrafting Twitter, or something, right? Mm-hmm. And you were like, "What the hell is this?"
Yes,
I would tell you what the hell this is,
sure.
And then I would probably link you to what I call an intake form, which sounds very clinical, but it is basically it's a handful of questions about yourself, kind of like a census. I get to know about you as a human being and how you like represent yourself, and then what kind of dev you are and what kind of opportunities you're looking for. And so then that information goes into my developer network database where I kind of keep track of all my devs based on this information. And you're categorized by, like, are you audio focused? Do you do 2D art? Are you 3D art? What kind of opportunities are you looking for? Have you worked with Playcrafting before? So all this information, that way, when companies reach out to us and they're like, hey, we're looking for a team of like female audio engineers. Do you know any? And I go, boop, boop, boop. Yes. And then I can put all of them in touch with the company and we can kind of make something happen. And then hopefully end of day, devs get money. That's the name of the game, right? So again, it's all in the name of like helping devs network and get paid and give their career momentum. If a dev were to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm working on a game, I'm going to launch it soon, I would say, that's fantastic. How can we help you promote it? We love to help promote indie devs. So we will signal boost on all of our socials. We'll put your game and a link to your game in our developer newsletter that goes out usually around once a month. We can signal boost on Discord, and we do Twitch content. It's been on pause a little bit right now with the Global Game Jam taking over and then GDC. Yeah. But we are going to start ramping up our Twitch content, and then we will play your game on Twitch. We only play indies on our channel. And then we also have a network of influencers that we can pass on your game Steam key to that play indie games. So we do what we can to help signal boost your project.
Understood. Is it the kind of thing like if I come to you with a game I'm working on, is there the potential to reach out to publishers that you guys might know or that kind of thing? Or is it more for like teaming up with like Dolby and doing these kind of projects?
It's both, honestly, and that's a really good point that you brought up. Primarily, I primarily kind of work with these partners to connect devs for paid projects. But if somebody reached out and was like, hey, I'm really looking for a publisher, I don't know where to start. We are Playcrafting is just extremely well networked, and we know a lot of people in a lot of places just from being in the industry for so long. That if a dev was like, "Hey, I just like don't know where to start with publishing," I could send them a breakdown of how to get started with publishing, what that looks like for an indie dev. Tips on how to like protect yourself moving forward, and then I could like point them in the direction of like appropriate publishers for their project.
Got it. That's amazing.
I mean, we just like really like it just comes down to like we really are just trying to help indie devs however we can. And we are leveraging our network and our partnerships to make that happen.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. As I have a huge heart for indie devs and just like the way they, they're scrappy. It's like it's like a side hustle kind of thing. And so the more opportunities that I can, like, I love to hear the stories of people that went from, the 9-to-5 grind, work until 2 a.m. and now their game supports them. That kind of stuff is like, that's gold to me.
Absolutely. Same. I am obsessed with indie devs. I love them so much. I think the community is so creative and so beautiful, and it's full of like so many good humans. Like, it's just such a good community. Whenever I like scroll through my Twitter, and I follow primarily devs and indie devs, and the discourse is just so positive. They work really hard to make a change in our industry overall. So the stuff that indie devs are doing game development wise is genius. They're creating amazing projects, but they're also doing a lot of groundwork to make a difference in the industry as a whole. In like just a very positive, altruistic way.
Yeah.
So it's just such a great community, and it feels good to be in a position where like I can do what I can within my job to help them network or get paid or get eyes on their project. So it just it just feels good to kind of help them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so I want to steer us a little bit more towards the Global Game Jam again, and kind of just give some information about it, right? Like, this isn't just a let's get together and make a game, but I mean, talk about some of the potential publishers that were at the last jam and some of the opportunities that could come from participating in this. And then also maybe let us know where, like, when do signups start and how can people start getting involved?
Oh, so with the Global Game Jam, it's like the big one that's the beginning of every year, and this is the global one. We are the biggest site in North America, and I think the second biggest site globally, which is pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yes. And so we have a lot of people that jam with us, and it's the beginning of every year, usually the end of January. And so those dates to sign up kind of differ. But it's January. So once January starts rolling around, it's a good idea to join our Discord, and you can go in there and kind of, if you're like a small team, but you're missing an artist, you can jump into our Playcrafting Discord and find an artist that's looking for a group. So we do a lot of matchmaking in our Discord leading up to Global Game Jam. And what's great about jamming with us, kind of to what you were saying, is we get a lot of really great judges, and we work with a lot of really great companies to offer cash prizes like Beamable did. Right. We also had Unreal offer a cash prize for best game made in Unreal. We offer like physical swag, game codes. So most Global Game Jam sites, everyone's doing it for the love of the game, and that truly is what it's about. We don't want to take away from that, but we do want to offer some incentives, and if we can like reward, the jammers with anything, we will. And we also work with great companies like I said, Unreal, Rockstar is there. We have a lot of really senior, really prominent indie devs judge. We have people from like Kotaku and Polygon judge. We had even people from Avalanche partake in the jam.
Yeah.
Last year too, which was like very cool. So it's cool to see like people more on the AAA side of things come over and do like something a little more indie and for themselves. We'd love to see that, and that happens quite often. So yeah, we do work with a lot of like bigger companies and devs and people. So jamming with us, you get those people's eyes like on your project and on your dev teams and on your small studios, which is really cool. And one of the prizes that we offered for Global Game Jam was the top 3 games, you got a lunch with Rockstar Games, which is really nice. So depending on what your team looked like or what you wanted to learn, say you got second place and you were really interested in level design, right? Then I would go to Rockstar and be like, hey, they're really interested in level design. Rockstar Games would then go and source a bunch of their senior level designers to kind of then have a talk and like kind of like a mentorship lunch with the winning team, so they could get some insight from, people that have been doing it for a minute.
That is amazing. I mean, It literally just seems like Playcrafting is all about the opportunity for the indie dev, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Same. And we also, and I can't believe I forgot this one because I'm such a fangirl for Square, but we had Square Enix also sponsor and judge our last game jam. So I know if I was an indie dev, knowing that Square Enix could have eyes on what I was doing, that would be a huge sell for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Krysti, why don't you plug, where people can get connected with Playcrafting or any resources that you would like to mention, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to playcrafting.com. We are working on the website, so I hate to send people there, but you know that feel because you just launched, because Beamable just launched a new site. You're like, don't look, it's going to be better. Yep. But if you want to interact with Playcrafting directly, at Playcrafting on Twitter is a great place to do that. I will see your DMs and respond to you. And if you would like to join our Discord, you can message us on the Playcrafting Twitter, and I will send you a link to the Discord, which is just a big, wholesome game dev hub. So if you're looking for just another Discord where game developers live, the Playcrafting Discord is a good place to be. And then if you want to message me directly about anything regarding Playcrafting, you can totally DM me at Krysti Pride on Twitter. That is no problem. And yeah, if you want to be part of our dev network, please message me. I'll send you the intake form and create a dossier about you. That way, if you're a fit for a project in the future, we can get you paid.
I love it. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Beamable Game Dev Podcast. If you would like to be a guest and share your experience as a game dev, email me, josh@beamable.com. If you'd like to hang out with other game devs in our Discord, head on over to beamable.com/Discord. And if you'd like to try Beamable for free, head on over to beamable.com.